everybody, got another battle report for you here. This was 2,400 points against a Dwarf player, and it was a really good game, great opponent. He had a Dwarf army with absolutely no war machines, so it was really good fun. And here are the lists. Mine's the same as what I've been using. Got Orgot's Demon Spear, the Bastard King, he's my general. I've got a Great Bray Shaman, the Swarmbringer. Markenurgle, level 4, Lord of Death. The Jagged Dagger, Brass Cleaver, Talisman of Endurance. Uncanny Senses and Gouge Tusks. Had a Herald Nurgle, Octopus Prime, level 1, Lord of Nurgle. The Greatest Locus of Fecundity, Palanquin of Nurgle and a Greater Gift. 19 Chaos Warriors, the Legion, Markenurgle Shields, full command and Gleaming Pennant. 28 Plague Bearers of Nurgle, Pus Tide, with full command. Had 10 Gore with additional hammer with Markenurgle. Had 10 Ungore with Markenurgle and Musician. Had 3 Beasts of Nurgle, the Slobber Gobblers. Had 5 Chaos Furies, the Pox Pixies. And had 3 Plague Drones of Nurgle, the Humbos, with the Standard Bearer. His list here, I didn't get exactly what his list was. This is roughly what it was from what I remember. This is all the kind of important stuff, I guess. He may have had a few extra bits in there, but I'm not entirely sure they were. So this is the Dwarf Throng of Karazakonga. Yes, I named it. You'll find out why. He had a Dwarf Lord on Shield Bears. I'm calling them bears, even though they're bearers. I know they're bearers, but in my mind they're bears. So I'll call them Shield Bears. I can do what I like. It's my battle report. And then he had 2 runes of toughness, I think. Rune of speed, rune of might, maybe. The one where if their toughness 5, you get double your strength. And he had a rune of whatever it was with a 5+ ward save. There you go. Shows you how much I know dwarves. He had Thane with a BSB on an Oath Stone and with a great weapon. He had 2 runesmiths, both of which had 2 runes of spell breaking. He had 23 Longbeards, full command. 28 Hammerers, full command and Vanguard. 10 Thunderers, 10 Quarrelers, 12 Rangers, and 3 Gyrocopters, one of which had Vanguard. And I'm going to be referring to these as Beard Force 1, Beard Force 2, and Beard Force 3. Yay! So here's a picture of deployment. And as you can see, he's just deployed across the board. I didn't have too much of a plan, I was just going to push forward. I kind of wanted to get Orgot's into his Longbeard bunker. I was a bit worried about his characters, but I wanted to make sure that I could kill them without losing on static combat res. So that was kind of, I could figure out if I could get another unit in at the same time as Orgot's, I figured I'd be okay. So on my left there, I've got my Furies, then to their right, my Plague Drones. The other side of the house there, you've got my Beasts of Nurgle, behind which is my Warriors with my Bray Shaman. And to the right there is Orgot's, and to their right is the Plague Bearers with the Herald. On his side there, you've got a big unit of Hammerers there in Horde formation. Then you've got the Thunderers. Behind that is Beard Force 2, the non-vanguarding Gyrocopter. Then to the right of that is 10 Quarrelers. Then to the right is the big Longbeard block. It had his Lord, his BSB, and a Runesmith installed. The other Runesmith was in the unit of Hammerers. Then to the right of the Longbeards, you've got his vanguarding Beard Force. And then you've got another non-vanguarding Gyrocopter. And then you've got that unit of, on the right-hand side there, you've got that unit of, they're the Rangers. They were in the building. We put them there to remind myself they were in the building. That's fine. So, yeah. He also vanguarded up his Hammerers, which looked like this. So I got first turn, which is nice. He did also vanguard up, I didn't get a picture of it properly, he vanguarded up his Gyrocopter in front of the Longbeards, which I then charged with my beasts. It was a long charge, it was like 11 inches, but I figured if I could make it, that would be incredible, because that would get me in such a strong position. And I think he thought so too. He thought it was too risky, so he fled. And they're not fast cavalry, which means it was putting him out of the game for a little while, at least. So I was good with that. I ended up rolling like a 2 and 2 1s or something, so I didn't move very far, which caused a bit of a traffic jam. My warriors just were not in the right place, I guess. But my mistake. And my Furies just moved up, so his Hammerers would basically have to charge them. And it was just my idea. I was throwing them away to hold them up for a little while. Hopefully get my Plague Drones into something else, one of the units on the hill. I also did get my some of my ambushes on. My Gore here managed to come on his board edge, right behind the Quarrelers. And Thunderers was going to get into some rear action there. Over here, on the right-hand side of the board, my Ungor came on. They were just going to go and harass the unit in the building, hopefully distract them for a turn. I wasn't too sure they would actually be able to kill a unit of Dwarves because they were outnumbered, because they're Ungor and they're terrible. But you never know. Thought I'd give it a go. And here you got bottom of turn 1. He charged his hammers into the Furies, as I thought he would. Moved his gyrocopters around a bit. He did move his the back gyrocopter there to flame, or to flame template thingy the gore. He dropped rocks on them, but he misfired, which was quite nice. His shooting phase goes off largely without hitch. His Quarrelers or Thunderers shoot at the plague drones, but because they're skirmishers and they were far enough away, he pretty much doesn't hit them. His scouts in the building do take some pot shots at Orgots and plink 2 wounds off, which is fine. Plenty more where that came from, I guess. And in his combat phase, he just destroys the Furies. My Furies do actually kill 2 or 3 Hammerers, which was quite nice. And take what I can get. Then we go to top of turn 2. As you can see, there's been a fair bit of movement. I did my charges in the wrong order, to be honest. I charged the Thunderers with my plague drones first. I shouldn't have done that. I should have charged my gore into the back of the Quarrelers first. Because what happened is I charged my plague drones first, and they fled, and that was fine. And then I chose to redirect, and I could either redirect into the Quarrelers or to the Hammerers. Now, the Quarrelers were about 7 or 8 inches away, which isn't a too difficult charge. But if I failed it, I was in a terrible position. And if I made it, they could have still fled, and they would have hit the gore and probably gone off the table, but maybe not. And I didn't want to take that risk of having my plague drones in a terrible position, so I decided, right, I'll just go into the back of the Hammerers. And then I charged my gore into the back of the Quarrelers, realising that if I'd done that and then charged my plague drones, they wouldn't have been able to flee anyway, so it probably would have been fine. But that's what happened. In my magic phase, I get the Caress of Lanif off on his BSB, I think I cast it on, and I ended up rolling double 1 for the number of hits, which is minus the strength, so I did negative a lot of hits, which is great. Combat phase, the combat doesn't go great. It goes alright. I lost 3 gore. I'd lost 3 before from the flame template from the gyrocopter, didn't mention that. In the combat I charged, lost 3, did 3 wounds. So yeah, nothing happens there. We both stick it out. And over here, it was rubbish. I didn't do very well at all. The plague drones just fly in and start slapping them in the face and tickling their big beards, and then get slapped in the face with a gigantic hammer. It wasn't good. I ended up killing 3 or 4. I didn't do very well. I rolled poorly. And then he, didn't. I also didn't mention this. I rolled a 4 in the magic phase, which on the Reign of Chaos meant that I had -1 ward save, which doesn't go well if you're fighting Hammerers. It just lost so much of my defense. Bit unlucky. They're pretty much the only demons in my army which could affect it, because my Plague Bearers and my Beasts have regen. So, but oh well, can't win them all. And then we go to bottom of 2. As you can see, he moves his gyrocopters around a little bit. He moves the one in the middle there. He moved in front of the beast, so the beast couldn't really charge anything. And then he put that second one directly behind it, in the thought that if I were to charge his gyrocopter, he could flee. He'd end up bouncing through that gyrocopter, then the unit behind it, and then ending up in a very safe position, not being charged by beasts, which was a perfectly legitimate idea. In the shooting phase, in the movement phase, he also moves his gyrocopter over the Plague Bearers, drops rocks, and ends up misfiring again, which is great. It's the second misfire of his game, so he's not doing very well with dropping rocks. He's managing to drop them on himself, which is really clever. Not sure how he did that. In the shooting phase, he opens up with his flame cannon thing, steam cannon, whatever it is, and kills 2 Plague Bearers. Then his scouts open up and kill another 2 Plague Bearers. And that's fine. Going to combat over here, I managed to kill 2. He does nothing. As I win combat here, and we stick it out. He's legit 10 from the Lord, and there's a BSB there, so he's not going anywhere. I'm just trying to hold him up so he's not shooting at me. That's kind of the basic idea there. Then over here, top of 3, we go in. My beasts charge that gyrocopter in front of them, and he flees 4 inches, and I charge after him, I catch him, and I kill him. Then I reform like this. So that's pretty awesome. I was quite happy with that. My Ungor also charged into the building. I wasn't sure if I should do this. I ended up just saying, man, screw it. It's only a small amount of points, and I might end up getting lucky and getting them out of the building at the very least. So I gave it a go. Run in, didn't realise he had throwing axes, so he threw axes at me and split 2 of them open. Not enough to cause a panic test, fortunately, but enough to kill 2, which sucked. In this magic phase, I get Miasma of Pestilence off on the beasts. It was just something to get off. I didn't really have any better spells to cast at the time. In combat, I kill another 1. That's a bit of a stalemate going on. We stick it out. This combat, close. It's annoying that you only get the combat res for wounds. I kill 3, which I was quite impressed with from Ungor. Then he kills 4 back. So I lose combat. I just step away from the building. This is the bottom of 3, and I'm showing you this slide before charges because I want to point out that the hammerers are about 15, 16 inches away, or maybe a little less than that. They needed a long charge. He picked up his dice and rolled 2 6s, and then boom, the beasts get mugged on all sides. Hammers into the flank, and Longbeards into the front with the Lord, the BSB. You know, he's getting mugged by 1,500 points worth of angry dwarf, which wasn't good. He also sends his Thunderers into the back of the Gore, so their days were numbered. He flies around with his gyrocopters to line up some flame shots at the Plague Bearers. He also using that one on the left there to block Orgot's charge into the big combat that's going on now. So just using them to chaff him up, which is, I have to live with that. He's wise of my opponent. He then flames with both gyrocopters by big unit of Plague Bearers, ends up killing 5, which is fine. Then we go into combat phase, and he kills my Gore, no problem. I do get another extra dwarf before I go down, but that's him in the picture. But hell, I managed to stop him shooting for a good 2 or 3 rounds. So that's fine. Then we go to combat, and I pull a bit of a dick move, to be honest. I challenged with the leftmost Beast of Nurgle, and his BSB on an Oathstone has to accept. So that happened, which meant his Thunderers, Hammerers even, had no one to attack, so they had absolutely no purpose in that combat. They get the charge, but the other unit got the charge anyway. They have a rank, but the Longbeards have more ranks. They have a flank, but beasts have the slime trail rule, which means they don't. That the enemy units charging them in the flank or rear don't don't get the benefit of charging in the rear. So that was awesome. So in the challenge, I don't wound him. He doesn't wound me. Rolls poorly. Then he attacks my beasts. Ends up doing 2 or 3 wounds to 1, and then with combat res, I killed 2 or 3 back, and then with combat res, he kills that beast and puts 3 wounds on the next. So I'm down half my beasts. I was a bit nervous, but that was on the charge. He gets +1 strength on the charge because he had dwarf choppers or something. I don't know. So that was fine. And he reforms like this. So basically, I think the idea of this was to get his hammers away from my upcoming units, in the hope that I'd fail my charge or something, I guess. But I was pretty close anyway. And here's top of turn 4. Orgots charges the gyrocopter because he's there. I might as well charge him. The Plague Bearers slam into the side of the Longbeards, which is great. That's exactly where I want him. And you might be thinking, hey, why didn't you charge those warriors into the hammerers? Right. Well, this happened. Those retards decided they were tired and they didn't want to go in. They were happy just watching the flying and flame show that the gyrocopters were giving. So they just sat there and did bugger all, which I was happy about, obviously. The Ungor charge into the building again. They throw throwing. There's 4 of them left. They throw throwing axes, kill 2 of them, cause a panic test, and they've had enough. They leg it back to graze, I guess. This is a better picture of the large combat going on. It's quite a cool looking thing. Lots of models in there. Quite like it. Yeah. In Magic Phase, I get the Caress of Lanif off on his unit of hammerers. I target the runesmith in there. I get 4 wounds on him. He's got magic res 2 and makes 3 out of his 4 ward saves. So I just put a wound on him. Don't actually kill him, which is a bit of a pain, but hey ho. Then we go into combat, and Orgot's, surprise, surprise, destroys the gyrocopter, which was great. What was less surprising, however, is the gyrocopter that was nearby failed his panic test and fled. Clearly he'd had enough too. He'd just seen what happened to his mate and decided he didn't want that to happen to him. So he bolted it. Then we jump into this big combat. I'm still in that challenge. He does 2 wounds to me this time, but I do get a wound through back, which is nice. Then the Plague Bearers hit the Longbeards, kill 3, but don't do anything back. And then after, I think I actually win this combat with my flank and my charge and my ranks and my wounds. But both of his units are 10 stubborn with a reroll, so obviously they weren't going to go anywhere. And his turn, nothing really happens. He moves his quarrelers at the back there, the 3 of them around a little bit. In his shooting phase, he shoots at Orgots, I think, and doesn't do anything. So he jumps straight into combat, and he's able to kill the beast. I think he ends up doing it through combat res. His Longbeards do quite well against the Plague Bearers, knocking out a few. And the beast dies, I think, probably from combat res. So he reforms his Longbeards to face the Plague Bearers. And I know what you're thinking. Hey, look at that. His Longbeards have reformed like that, and it's your turn next. That gives Orgot's Demon Spew a great opening there, doesn't it? Yeah, well, you would be right, except the dwarf throng of Kara's Conga does not go down lightly, and boom, Conga line. I really enjoyed this. It was brilliant. He after the combat, he reformed his Longbeard, then decided he's muttered, I wonder if I can figure out a way to reform and block them getting in. And I was like, I don't think you can do that. And then he did this, and I was like, oh yeah, you can do that. It was outstanding. Really, really impressive move. And what's more is the front. So the 2 guys were facing forward. Both of my unit, both Orgots and my warriors, were in the front of that unit. And I'm pretty sure I couldn't have got both of them in because of where the Plague Bearers were. I wouldn't have been able to fit both Orgots and my warriors into the front if I'd wanted to send them in. So it was brilliantly placed by my opponent. Very well played. And then it gets my turn, and obviously I'm going to do it. I just send Orgots in. I know they're hammerers. They have that rule where they can accept challenges as per unit champions, but only when the general's in the unit. So I just had to get through his unit champion and his wounded runesmith, and then I could start showing up the unit, but that was fine. In the magic phase, I roll an 8, and Slanesh decides, oh, I'm a bit thirsty. There's a dwarf down there with a beer, and then just drinks him. So he grabs the gyrocopter, pops it open like a bottle cap, and just drinks what's inside. And for anyone who doesn't get that narration, I rolled the Dark Prince Thirst, and he rolled like a 17 on his leadership test, and died. So that was great. This guy had a great run. In the magic phase, I cast the Caress of Lanif again and I managed to pick off his unit champion, which was quite nice because it means he couldn't accept a challenge with him, which means I only had 1 person to go through with Orgots. And that's exactly what I do. We jump into combat, I issue a challenge, he pushes his runesmith forward and he gets annihilated. I win combat with quite a lot of overkill, but he's stubbornly chip 10 and doesn't go anywhere. In this combat, I issue a challenge with my Herald, and he has to accept with his BSB, and I knock the last wound off him, which is fantastic. I actually think It might have been the Nurglings that killed him. The 6 attacks from the Palanquin, which was just outstanding. Really impressed with those guys. They're stompy Nurglings. The rest of the combat, we slug it out. I don't think I kill any more, actually. Then he knocks off a couple of Plague Bearers, which is fine. Expect no less, to be honest. Then we go into his turn. He moves his quarrels around a little bit just to get to the side of the Plague Bearers. Nothing happens in shooting, so we go straight into combat. And Orgots end up just destroying 11 hammerers with all his attacks and his thunder stomps. He just wrecks them. They don't flee, unfortunately, but it's good to know that they'll be dead soon. This combat, I end up in a challenge with this Dwarf Lord. I do a wound to him. He does 2 wounds back. Bit nervous about that. I've got the D3 wound sword. I rolled a 1 for my wound, so I was hoping for higher than that, so I actually get him down. He's got 5 wounds, so it's quite a big chunk to get through. Then we go straight to my turn, and my warriors hit the side of the hammerers. My thought was they can go in. Orgots can deal with most of the hammerers. My warriors can finish them off. Then they can overrun to the side of the Longbeards, and then add all their attacks and their rank bonus and their flank charge to that. That was the plan. In Magic, I get Miasma of Pestilence off on this unit. I'll try to get the big one off, but I end up rolling a 1, so it's essentially the small one. In combat, it goes pretty much as I hoped. Orgots managed to finish us off all but 2 of the hammerers. The warriors don't do very well, actually, because there's only now sort of 2 warriors in contact with them. They don't kill the last 2, so it's down to my Thunder Stomp. I rolled 2 for my Thunder Stomp, and I don't roll any 1s, so unfortunately I managed to kill both hammerers with the Thunder Stomp. Warriors overrun to Longbeards, and then they'll get a few attacks extra again, which is fine. Not really neither here nor there. The challenge continues between the Herald and the Dwarf Lord. He gets another wound on me. I get 1 wound through, and this time I roll a 6, so I get 3 wounds down on the Dwarf Lord, so he's down to 1 wound, which is awesome. Really happy to have him nearly dead. I think I actually wounded him with my Palanquin Stomp as well, so he had a bit of a nervous armor save there. In his turn, he gets his... you can see there he got his Quarrelers into the side of my Plague Bearers. Again, nothing happened in the rest of his phase, so we go straight into combat, and boom! Managed to kill his Dwarf Lord with my Herald. He doesn't get any wounds on me. He flubs his rolls. I managed to get that 1 extra wound through and kill him, which was awesome. Nothing else really happens in that combat. I kill 1 or 2 more Longbeards. He kills 1 or 2 more of me. His Quarrels add nothing to the combat. My warriors don't really do anything because they're in a bad position. They're actually getting that many attacks against the Longbeards. And there you have it. There's the end of the game. Like I said, really good game. It ended up being right on the wire until right at the end, where I took out his BSB and his Dwarf Lord in the last couple of turns. We tied up the victory points. It was something like I got 1,500 off him. He got about 600-700 off me. So that's another victory for the leaders of Nurgle, which is great. Really happy with how this game went. Really enjoyed it, and I can't wait for the rematch. So as always, everyone, please feel free to leave a comment in the comment section of YouTube. Subscribe to my channel or follow me on Twitter @MoreWarGames. Thanks very much for listening. Bye.